So today we're going to be looking at the Clef Master Rhythm drum machine. This is from 1978 to early 80s. It came out, and it's made by a Stockport based, that's in the UK, company called Clef Electronic Music. Now they also made a mono synth, a thing called a band box, which incorporated this drum machine, but also it had some auto accompaniment units within it which were fully programmable, so it was kind of a bit like a workstation or a groove box that came along later. Roland used to make those, and a number of other people did, but this was much earlier. It also made some string synths as well, which came as kit only, and this came as either as a kit you could build yourself, or you could buy it factory made. The company used to advertise in the back of magazines. They were called things like Electronic Sound Maker, Electronic and Music Maker, those kind of titles, always Electronic something or other maker. And these magazines used to be sold in newsagents. There was quite a lot of them covering all sorts of DIY projects, but they were effectively project magazines that had instructions, schematics, etc. for devices, all sorts of devices that you could build yourself, including synthesizers and drum machines and other bits of audio equipment. You could buy the components and even the cases. In the case of this, you get the case as well, and you could make them yourself, and it would be a little bit cheaper, or in some cases you could buy them ready-made. This one here I bought as a factory made unit back in 1980 for use with my band Stress, which was a two-piece electronic band, what they would now call cold wave band. So very basic equipment we had, but everything was very basic then anyway. It does have similarities with another much better known machine that came out very shortly after it, but used all of the same circuitry, which was this one here, which is the Boss Dr Rhythm DR55. That Boss Roland, same company. They did stomp pedals, which you're probably familiar with, and also drum machines, and they did quite a few called the Dr Rhythm, but this is probably one of the early ones, and one of the ones that's the more better known ones. And there was a lot of drum machines that copied this. The difference with the Clef Master Rhythm was it came before, so it's not a clone. I don't think that Boss or Roland particularly looked at the Clef as a very small British company and thought that they would copy what they did, but they just happened to use a lot of the same circuitry. So pretty much identical circuitry inside. However, what it does with that circuitry, or what the Clef Master Rhythm does with that circuitry, is a lot more than the Dr Rhythm does, although there is similarities in the way that they work. So we can see similar, the controls are similar. So there's a volume control, which is an on-off control as well. That's the same on here. There's also a tone control, which is the same, and a tempo control. That's got a tempo as well. The Dr Rhythm has an accent level, which you can turn up and down there. The Clef Master Rhythm doesn't have that, so that's a slight difference really. Hi-hats, the big difference here is that they're fully programmable on the Master Rhythm, and they're just preset of off or 8 or 12 and 16 beats of hi-hat on the Dr Rhythm. The variation as well, so this is a variation of the programs, so they both share that in common, in that you've got this big dial which you use to select the programs. Dr Rhythm's got 8 of them. Again, the Clef Master Rhythm's got more, it's got 12. This has got 16 and 12 step. This has got more because it's got, and it's a little bit confusing really, so I think I've managed to work it out just by trial and error, because I don't have a manual for this, and couldn't seem to find one online. I think 1 to 3 has got 12 beats to the bar. 4 to 8 has got 16 beats to the bar, so it's similar to this, but slightly more 12 step and fewer 16 step. 9 and 10 seem to be 32 beats to the bar, and 11 and 12 seem to be 24 beats to the bar. So you've got a lot of variety there, a lot of different things that you can do within that, and you can obviously program it to be exactly the same if you wanted it a really long one, but there's no point because it will cycle round if you did it on one of the shorter programs. And also, of course, you've got the A and the B variation, which you've got on both of these, so you can do your 12 or your 8, and you can do the same again as an alternative. You know, you can switch over A and B, so you've got like 16 or you've got 24 on here. So you've got plenty of different programs that you can do, and given the limitations in the number of sounds you've got, that's probably plenty enough, I would say. The difference again in here is that the sequencing on here, on the variation, is you can have it A, playing the A or the B, or then A and then the B on the Dr Rhythm. The Clef has got more. You can have it A and B, A plus B. If you switch over here to sequencer, you can have 3 of the A patterns and then a B pattern for a fill, or you can have 7 and 1. So if you've got an 8-bar thing, you've got a fill on the 8th one as well. So that is actually pretty good, I would say. The rest of it, I think it looks pretty similar. You've got a start and a stop here, which they call a play and a rest on here, which you use to both program it, to program that for the actual beat, and that for the rest, for the gap in it, and it's just also start and stop as well, so as it says on here. So when you're playing it, start and stop. It does work a little bit differently in how you play and record. So on the Dr Rhythm, you've got a play and a write switch, which you just toggle across like that. Here you actually use this big dial, this big Moog style dial, to select play all the individual instruments. We'll come on to those in a minute because there are more of them. It goes all the way around to play again. It doesn't keep going around, you have to go back if you want to do that. Here you just switch over between play and write. And another big difference here, I think, is the amount of instruments that you've got. So aside from being able to program your cymbals, you've also got more sounds. On the Dr Rhythm, you've got bass drum, snare drum, a rim shot, and the accent, which you can control with this level. And you just switch across using that, so you've got your basically 3 drum sounds and an accent. Here you've got a lot more drum sounds, so you've got, I think, about 7 different sounds, and you've got 3 treatments for the snare as well, which we'll come on to in a minute. So you've got the bass drum, a low and a high tom, which don't sound hugely like toms, to be honest. They are a bit poppy, but they give you a lot more variety. You've got snare, which sounds very similar to the Dr Rhythm snare because it's using the same circuitry. Rim shot, ditto for that. Long and a short cymbal, which they call hi-hat on here, but you can actually have either one or the other. So if you did a long and a short cymbal, it would be like opening and closing a hi-hat. And then the accent, which will apply to anything that happens to be on that beat, exactly the same as for the Dr Rhythm. The other thing it's got over the Dr Rhythm is you've got different treatments for the snare. So this switch here that says instrument affects the snare only. You can set it to stick, which is your standard snare, and it's the same snare as you've got on the Dr Rhythm, but you can also set it to brush, which is a white noisy kind of hissy kind of sound, not much like a brush, but gives it a different sound. And then a Latin American LA, which is more like a clave kind of sound, like a wood block kind of sound to it, so it's a little bit toppier. So that gives you quite a lot more variety. It's a little bit bigger a unit, it's a little bit deeper as well, it's slightly angled as opposed to being flat. Connectivity wise, the Dr Rhythm has got, that's the output there, and you've got these 2 sync outputs here, and you've also got a foot switch there which just starts and stops it. So it's okay, it works okay. You don't have those on the on the Master Rhythm. What you've got is you've got a DIN switch here. It looks a bit like a MIDI, but it isn't. I don't think you can MIDI either of these machines really, because I don't think the circuits work in that way. So there isn't really mod kits you can get for these. These different pins on here will do quite a similar thing to the foot switch and the different sync outputs there, so they'll enable you to sync it to other devices. It's designed to work with their band box, and you could wire that up so you can use a foot switch with it as well if you wanted to turn it on and off. So it does all the same kind of functions, and then you've just got a single out at the back, a mono out, which is a jack one. They both work off batteries, so I'll put this to one side for now because we're not going to be looking at that. We're just going to focus on this. They both work off batteries. Another big difference with this is that you can actually change the sounds a little bit, so you can tweak them up and down in terms of the pitch, but you have to open it up to do that. So if we just have a look, I've actually unscrewed it so you can see. So I'll just balance that carefully there. You'll see here there is some trim pots here. I think there's 8 altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry, it's 11 altogether. Which they're not marked here, so you'd have to actually either know what they are or mark them. But helpfully here, it's been written on the circuit board, which you can't probably see very well, but it says accent snare drum, except to where the connections are. So these trim pots are in front of that, and you would use a very small, tiny little electric, screwdriver, one of these little almost toy ones really, to get in there because they're very small. In later versions of this, they did. Oh, there's a battery pack, by the way, so it takes AA batteries. In later versions of this, they did have holes screwed underneath. So, and then the whole circuit board was basically turned around so that you could access those from underneath without needing to take it apart and open it up and do it. So you could do it while it was switched on. You could do that. You can leave it switched on if you want to do that, because it's only battery power. It's not going to kill you, so you can't really do anything that's too bad with it. So I would, I'd do it if you wanted to. So that's basically what it looks like and kind of how it's configured and how it works. I'm not going to go into all the electronics side of it inside because I don't really understand that myself. But I think it's probably worth, for the next section, we'll look at how to actually program it. So in this section we'll look at how to program it. It's quite simple. It's very similar to the Dr Rhythm that we looked at earlier in the way that it works. You've got your instruments here to select, and if you use this dial, if you turn it out of the play area, it will select those instruments ready for recording. This dial here selects the individual pattern number. As we said earlier, they've got different lengths to them, and you've got an A and a B selection here, which you use to select A or B. So let's just leave it on A, and we're going to have pattern number 6, which is blank at the moment, and that's one of the 16 beat patterns. So we've got our 16 beats to fill up there. So we'll do what most people do usually, which is start with the bass drum. So you just turn it to bass drum. You'll see that light comes on. That light will go off again when we get to the end of the 16 beats. So if you want to do a fairly basic one where it's just sounding every other beat, which we'll do just for the purposes of demonstration, you would press the play, and then that would give you a gap. The rest play and gap. So it's 16, so we'll be doing 8 of lows and 8 of lows. So here we go. So we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and rest. And now that's lit. So hopefully, if I've done that right, it should be okay. We'll have to turn it back to play. Yep, that sounds pretty continuous to me. Rest will stop it. There's no accent on that at the moment, so if we accent it, we can make it go, you know, a little bit more prominent. We'll go to the snare and we'll do the opposite. So we'll do a very standard 4/4 bum chick kind of sound, just for demonstration purposes. So again, we're on the snare. So rather than start with the play, we'll start with the rest this time. So and you'll hear it sounding while you're doing it exactly the same as it does for the Dr Rhythm. Then go back to play. We can change the tempo down. It goes quite fast actually. That sounds about right, roughly. Okay, so if we want to add a few toms, we can go in there and do that. We'll add those once every 4 beats, so we'd have a rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll turn it back and we'll that's a low tom. We'll do some high tom, shall we? So we'll do that and a little run, shall we? I'll just do it fairly randomly. See what that sounds like. Okay, could be quite hypnotic, I guess. We'll have a rim shot going, shall we, as well? Why not put it all in there? So, well, again, we'll do that in a fairly random fashion. Don't know what that's going to sound like, but doesn't sound too bad. I'm just on the sound on the microphone, on the camera at the moment, so this is not going through a mixer or anything like that. It's got no effects on it either, so it's not going to sound as good as it would do if you went through a mixer. You can make it sound a lot better, and you can EQ it and everything like that and process it. Let's just try the cymbals. So we'll put some on. You have to switch the program, switch up to listen to them. Can't really hear them much on there actually. Let's try the short cymbal. You can just about hear it now. Again, a little hissy sound. You could EQ that up a bit more. And we'll put some accents on. So it might sound a bit busy, but we'll try it anyway. So again, I'll do it quite randomly and just see what happens. So you're getting a kind of a lolloping kind of beat there, which you can see, and you can turn the cymbals off, have them going continuously. we've got an accent on it, means they're going up and down a little bit. Hard to hear on this, but you could make them more prominent, and you can also adjust them inside. You can tweak those little trim pots to make it a little bit louder and quieter. It doesn't make a lot of difference on the cymbals and the white noise settings, I have to say. I've tried it, it's very marginal. And the tone as well, if I twiddle the tone while we're doing it, it makes a very, very small difference to the higher sounds. It may be, this feels a little bit crunchy to me. It may be that needs some work on it. I might need to replace that part. It might have gone and not be working. I don't know. Not been brave enough to try that so far. Let's just have a quick look at the difference in the snare sounds. So if I just play it, you can hear the stick going. That's the brush sound, that kind of hissy, brushy sound. It does sound a little bit like a brush, I have to say. This is Latin American. It's just kind of wood blocky. I quite like that. Let's leave it on there. What we can do is we can put it through an effects unit. So the one I'm going to use is one that would be contemporary to it, which is this thing here, which is a DD2 digital delay. These are around at the time. This is the one that I would have used with this, because it's the only effect unit we had. So you just need to actually unplug this, plug it in, and plug the input in. So there's a bit of clunking going on there, and then we can see there. We'll play it. Immediately sounds a lot better, and obviously you can tweak away. Make it sound quite robotic actually as well if you want to. So you can do a lot with it when you process it through various effects. I think it sounds pretty good actually, considering it's such an old machine. So yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to leave it there. Actually, I don't think there's much more I can say about this. You probably won't find a lot of them around. Some of them might be home built ones, so they might not be built very well if the skill of the person building them isn't very good, which is true of any of these kit units. They're well worth keeping an eye out for, getting hold of, but be warned, you may have to do a bit of work or get someone to do a bit of work to get them to work properly, and in some cases they may never work properly because bits will be missing out of them. And you can get the schematics. There are people that do that kind of thing and that can help you with that, and I'll put some links down below to Look Mum No Computer, who is actually very keen on these kind of DIY build it yourself kit synths, and there's some interesting videos that he's posted there as well. Hope you find this useful. If you do see one of these, it's worth picking them up because they are rare things now. They often don't come in very good condition. This one's quite good condition, but that's because it's been kept well. Sometimes that they're not quite so well. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there now, and hopefully, that's been useful to you.